Here are my top 3 tips for overcoming stage fright so you can perform at the best of your ability. We haven't met. Hi, I'm Meghan. I'm a violinist and teacher who's been playing for over 20 years. I have both my bachelor's and master's degrees in violin performance, and I'm a Suzuki trained teacher. If you're enjoying my videos, please smash that subscribe button and check out my Learn Violin Online membership in the description below. Stage fright, sometimes called performance anxiety, sometimes called just being nervous, is completely normal. I feel like there's a bit of a stigma around it, especially in the professional world, but stage fright, performance anxiety, whatever you want to call it, happens to everyone, and it's completely okay. Let's think about why this happens. Why do you get nervous? Well, you get nervous because you care, because you want to perform your best. In a way, if you didn't get nervous, that would be a really bad sign, because that would mean you didn't really care all that much. Performing is scary. It requires you to be vulnerable. And let's be honest, we put so much pressure on ourselves to perform at a very high level. I'm speaking from experience. Here are my top 3 tips for overcoming your stage fright so that you can unlock your best performance yet. Tip number 1 is to know your piece very well. So there's a few layers to this. 1, if at all possible, perform a piece that is not at the height of your ability level. I know this isn't always possible, especially if you're in music school, and oftentimes we want to perform the piece that we just recently learned. But if you perform a piece a few pieces back, right, one that's a little bit easier for you now, performing is going to be a lot easier just because the piece is easier. 2, obviously you want to practice the piece a lot. You want to be very familiar with all aspects of the piece and not have any questions, especially when it comes to fingerings, bowings, or rhythm. And 3, I find it's helpful to have what I call escape routes. So say there's a part that I'm maybe a little bit worried about and sometimes it goes wrong. If I have a plan on how to get back on after I make a little mistake or whatever, then that's really going to ease my nerves and help me know that even if I do make a mistake, it's okay. The whole piece isn't going to fall apart. Tip number 2 is to perform often. Performing is a skill within itself, and you really don't know how you're going to react until you actually do it. Obviously, everybody reacts differently when they're under pressure. For me, I get, my heart rate goes up a lot. I'm sure yours probably does too. And I get really shaky. So if you know how your body is going to react, that will help you kind of mitigate those reactions a little bit. Also, if you perform more often, you'll get used to feeling like this and you'll discover ways for you to overcome it. Perform for your family, perform for your friends. Ask someone that you met online to have a Zoom with you and listen to you play. These are going to be really helpful experiences and prepare you for your actual big performance. Tip number 3 is to utilize mental practice. So there was a study done, I would link it if I can find it, maybe I will find it, but basically they took 2 groups of people who were trying to learn how to shoot a 3-pointer in basketball. Group A actually practiced physically shooting those baskets, and Group B just thought about practicing. And when they tested them, Group B, the ones who had just thought about practicing those shoots, was actually more accurate. Let's talk about why that is. Well, when you're actually physically practicing, you're not going to make all of the baskets, right? You are going to miss some. However, when you're practicing in your head, you're not going to miss any of the baskets, right? So our brain really does not know reality from what we're thinking. So if you set aside time in the week or weeks leading up to your performance and visualize yourself having a good performance, your performance is much more likely to go well. What I like to do is I like to visualize myself in the exact room. I know this isn't always possible if you're taking an audition or something, but if you know where you're going to be performing, even better. I like to think about what I'm gonna wear, how I'm gonna feel. I like to think about seeing the people in the audience before me, and I go through my whole piece in my head. Sometimes I'll also like air violin along with it, but I visualize myself having a good performance, and it's really helpful. Extra bonus tips: try eating a banana about an hour before your performance. The banana has some chemical in it that slows your heart rate down a little bit. 2, something that I used to do, I don't do it anymore, but I would do jumping jacks before the before the performance. I don't know, that somehow like calmed my heart rate down, or maybe it got it leveled up so that I didn't feel so nervous. I'm not sure, but I did jumping jacks and that calmed me down before the performance. I also like to utilize now what I call 6, 7, 8 breathing, where you breathe in for 6, you hold for 7, and then you breathe out for 8. Make sure that you're breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Finally, if you're like me and your bow gets a little bit shaky when you're performing, what you can do is, 1, just accept it. I feel like whenever I'm hyper conscious of my bow shaking, I'm thinking, no, don't shake, whatever, it gets worse. If I just kind of accept that it's gonna happen, then it's not as big of a deal. And 2, tilt your bow so that your stick is facing away from you and you're playing on very little hair, and that will decrease the bouncing. Also, if you're like me, that bouncing really only lasts in the beginning. Once I'm playing for a little bit, I kind of get over it. And 2, a lot of times it's way worse underneath your ear than it is to the audience. I can't tell you how many times I've had a student say like, oh, my bow is bouncing, shaking so bad. And I was like, I didn't hear anything. So those are my best tips for overcoming your stage fright. If you have anything else that's helped you overcome your performance anxiety, please leave them in the comments below because I would love to hear. Subscribe before you go, and thank you for watching.